It's called The View?
It's called The View. It's not called The Facts.
Yeah, but
It's
isn't it interesting that it's called, I mean, I don't think they meant this when Barbara Walters invented it a long time ago, but it's The View.
Well,
that's the problem in America.
But
There is one view.
Right, and that's clearly
true opinion, and everybody else can go sit in the corner.
That's correct.
They're disgusting. She's Anna Navarro. In your wildest imagination, you could never solo host a show. You will only ever make it as part of an ensemble, and you could never hope to achieve the success that Tucker Carlson has. So you can sit in your little cheap seats all day long and enjoy your little negative henpecking, but your careers are going nowhere, and Tucker is about to dominate.
In the brightly lit, often tumultuous arena of live television, where carefully crafted personas clash and opinions frequently masquerade as immutable truths, an unthinkable collision recently sent shockwaves far beyond the usual cable news echo chambers. It was a confrontation so utterly devastating, so meticulously executed, that it left a prominent, seemingly unshakable figure reeling, her carefully constructed intellectual fortress shattering under the weight of an unprecedented dual intellectual assault. This wasn't merely a spirited debate, a lively exchange of viewpoints, or the usual polite sparring we've come to expect. No, this was a public unraveling, a masterclass in how unwavering logic and unflinching wit can meticulously dismantle even the most entrenched, the most performative, the most self-assured displays of outrage. The question echoing across the media landscape wasn't if she could recover, but whether her entire worldview, her very brand, could withstand such a brutal televised reality check. What truly happened on live television that sent this seasoned personality, who had confidently sipped her tea just moments before, metaphorically face-planting into her note cards, blinking like she'd just seen her Wi-Fi bill?
I want to talk about Whoopi Goldberg because I got so many texts this week because she attacked me the week before.
Sure.
So she was, everybody was like, oh, Bill, I get you're enjoying the karma. First of all, I'm going to talk about this at the end of my show next week, teaser. But there is no fucking thing as karma, okay? Get over that. Whoopi attacks me on a regular basis. She says stupid shit on a regular basis. They just happen to coincide. But can I...
That hot mess that they air in the mornings, called The View, had to issue not one, not two, not three, but 4 corrections, legal corrections. 4 legal notes. Not to mention what they did at that debate, where once again, they tried to fact check only one side, and then when their fact checks got fact checked, they cowered. They cowered in fear. I mean, this is a pattern with them.
For years, the stage has been set at The View, a program celebrated less for its groundbreaking journalism and more for its chaotic, often fiery clash of personalities. Here, opinions reign supreme, not facts. This fundamental truth, ironically highlighted by the show's very name, The View, not the facts, forms the bedrock of its polarizing success. Within this arena, one figure has reigned supreme, her voice often the loudest, her pronouncements the most definitive, Sunny Hostin. Armed with a law degree she wields like a lightsaber forged in the school of smug, a formidable history as a former federal prosecutor, and an unshakable belief in her own moral infallibility, Hostin has meticulously cultivated a persona built on unassailable intellectual dominance and professional finger-wagging. Her credentials, practically tattooed on her forehead, precede her. She's the self-appointed legal expert, the arbiter of right and wrong, the woman who, in her own mind, possesses all the answers. Every topic, from the latest viral TikTok trend to the proper storage temperature for mayonnaise, somehow finds its way back to her favored narratives of systemic oppression or social injustice. It's an almost uncanny ability, a performance so consistent it becomes almost a caricature. Watch her, and she could observe a puppy rescue and still find a way to make it about racial disparity. She thrives in monologues, rarely tolerating dissent, her pronouncements delivered with the unwavering gravitas of a Supreme Court ruling. Anytime she begins a sentence with, "as a lawyer," you can be 100% certain what follows will either be wildly inaccurate, painfully obvious, or just plain obnoxious. Sunny, with impressive consistency, manages to do all 3 simultaneously. It's a legal TED Talk, but one strangely devoid of facts, instead overflowing with moral superiority. This carefully constructed fortress of intellectual and moral authority, however, was about to face an unexpected and ultimately devastating siege.
Any term you want.
Okay.
because maybe that is a word that's triggering, and so let's not use that word. I don't know, want to call it the super far left, but don't tell me the left
Maybe the super far right.
Well, he's talking about the left. Well, then
okay, but we talked about that. I mean, I think we agree about the danger of the super far right, and I can't say it enough. I think they're the bigger threat. But don't tell me that the left hasn't changed. I mean, I'm old enough to remember when it was the conservatives who hated the Jews.
Yeah.
Okay. And finally, new rule: stop saying that Whoopi Goldberg getting yanked from The View right after she attacked me on The View is karma. There's no such thing as karma. Sorry. Sorry, but life is random. The only word to describe it when a big game hunter gets trampled by an elephant and then eaten by lions is hilarious.
Enter the unlikely tag team. Two figures who have never needed an excuse to be blunt. Two intellectual bulldozers ready to meet a glitter glue stick. Bill Maher and Megyn Kelly. They are the antithesis of the emotional, performative style Sunny Hostin embodies. Bill Maher, the seasoned, unbothered satirist, is renowned for his dry, scorched earth wit and his stubborn refusal to be confined by any single political ideology. He is a master of the intellectual takedown, delivering sharp jabs wrapped in layers of sardonic humor, always operating from a place of detached amusement. He has been wading through ideological minefields since dial-up internet was a thing, a veteran of countless media battles, and utterly impervious to the kind of righteous indignation Sunny so frequently deploys. Then there's Megyn Kelly, the razor-sharp legal mind turned media powerhouse, famous for her icy calm dissection of complex issues. She operates with the precision of a surgeon, her rebuttals cutting deep without a raised voice or a hint of theatricality. Kelly's superpower, apparently scandalous in the ecosystem of The View, is her ability to use facts in a coherent sentence, to cite data, and to walk through a logical timeline without a dramatic hair flip or an existential meltdown. This is treated like sorcery on the panel, a dangerous display of composure and literacy, two things seemingly most feared. These weren't the usual sparring partners Sunny was accustomed to. They didn't come armed with emotional appeals or pre-approved talking points. Instead, they wielded facts, cold logic, and a fearless disregard for the usual rules of engagement on The View. Their combined approach was a unique force, designed to bypass Sunny's typical emotional defenses and strike directly at the foundation of her arguments. This wasn't a debate, it was an academic demolition derby, and Sunny, caught off guard, found herself hilariously outmatched, desperately attempting to defend herself against intellectual heavy machinery with rhetorical party favors.
They had a discussion on The View about world superpowers from the sound of it. That's how they got into it. And Sunny Hostin made some comments about patriotism and America and Black America. It's all in there, Jason. I mean, it's all in there. I'm going to tee it up. It starts with Alyssa Farah, who's supposed to be the Republican commentator. And then you'll hear Sunny jump in. Listen.
If America is not the #1 global power, it's not going to be Denmark. It's going to be communist China, a country that right now the government is imprisoning Uyghur Muslims in concentration camps. It is a deeply racist government. It's a human rights violating government. It is a government that if they are the leader of the free world, we are not a free world the way that we are right now.
The notion of patriotism and the notion of America and the American flag has been co-opted by the right as if they are true patriots. But when I listen to Christopher Wray, the head of the FBI, he said white supremacy is the biggest domestic threat to this country.
The impact was immediate and, for Sunny, profoundly humbling. Her entire shtick, her very professional existence, hinges on one critical element: never being truly challenged. She dictates, she accuses, she moralizes. That's her tried and true cocktail for controlling any narrative. But when someone like Kelly calmly pokes a hole in that carefully inflated balloon of moral authority, the deflation is both immediate and irreversible. The public has been witness to The View being forced to issue not one, not two, not three, but 4 legal corrections following on-air pronouncements. A stark and undeniable testament to the show's, and often Sunny's, casual and often inaccurate relationship with verifiable facts. There have been countless instances where the show attempted to fact-check only one side of an argument, only to then sheepishly cower when their own supposed fact checks were, themselves, meticulously meticulously fact-checked live on air. This is a recurring pattern, a predictable dance. Yet Sunny persists, leveraging her background to project an air of legal authority, even when what follows her as a lawyer opening is often wildly inaccurate, painfully obvious, or just plain obnoxious. It's like listening to a legal TED Talk that strangely omits all the facts, instead overflowing with an almost insufferable air of moral superiority when her carefully constructed house of cards, built precariously atop the fragile scaffolding of self-proclaimed moral superiority, was met with even the gentlest whisper of dissent. It didn't just wobble, it disintegrated in spectacular, cringe-inducing fashion. She came armed with emotional outbursts and interpretive dance moves symbolizing oppression, while Kelly's precision-guided missiles of reason calmly dismantled the narrative scaffolding. You could almost feel Sunny's neurons short-circuiting in real time every time Kelly brought up something rooted in data, logic, or history. Sunny's only defense was to retreat further into her fortress of indignation, as if louder equals smarter, as if emotional outrage can somehow trump inconvenient truths.
Donald Trump will be sworn in as the 47th president of the United States, yay, on January 20th of this month. Not everyone's happy about it, and many people would like us to be more focused on the insurrection that he personally unleashed, if you ask them. As we discussed earlier, they think it's as bad as like the Holocaust, and you don't have to take my word for it. Here is Sunny Hostin of The
January
View
6th was an
today.
atrocity. It was one of the worst moments in American history. And when you think about the worst moments in American history, you know, like World War II, things that happened, you know, like the Holocaust, chattel slavery.
Yeah, the January 6th is right up there next to the Holocaust and slavery.
I want you to note the tone they all talk with him. I want you to look at Sunny Hostin's body language and the way they look at him and everything else. Just because he is a lefty who hasn't gone completely bananas, here they are talking about the word woke.
The term woke has been, in my view, co-opted by the right and weaponized and bastardized. And so I was surprised to hear you use the term because historically, as you know, because I think you're quite brilliant, that woke is a word used by the Black community to note that we must be aware of social injustices.
But words
and so
migrate.
why is that a bad thing?
It's not a bad thing, and originally that was absolutely a great thing. Alert to injustice, who's not for that? But words do migrate.
Beyond the factual inaccuracies and the perceived intellectual shortcomings, what truly highlighted Sunny's unraveling was her almost pathological reliance on performative outrage. She possesses an uncanny and deeply ingrained ability to pivot virtually any topic, from the weather forecast to the latest pop culture phenomenon, into a passionate, often shrill discourse on systemic injustice or societal oppression. It's like watching a human version of a Twitter feed come to life. Loud, relentlessly performative, and deeply committed to misunderstanding everything on purpose for maximum emotional impact. Case in point, her baffling and deeply offensive comparison of the January 6th Capitol riot to monumental historical atrocities on the scale of World War II, the Holocaust, and child slavery. This isn't just hyperbole, it's a profound and dangerous distortion of history, meticulously designed to elicit a visceral, unthinking reaction rather than encourage thoughtful analysis or reasoned debate. And then there's her peculiar and strangely comprehensive war on comedy. For someone who purports to understand the intricacies of law and society, she seems bizarrely and fundamentally allergic to jokes. To her, sarcasm is hate speech, and satire is emotional assault. Expecting Bill Maher, a comedian by trade whose very job description involves poking fun at public figures, not to engage in humor is like walking into a bakery and expressing outrage that they're selling bread. Yet, every single time Maher so much as inhales, Sunny Hostin reacts with theatrical dramatics, as if someone just stood on a table and read her middle school diary aloud, doodles and all. She clutches her pearls, gasping, "How dare he?" As if personal offense, no matter how manufactured, is a valid and robust counterpoint in a comedic monologue. This constant escalation, this unwavering reliance on moral indignation, revealed a deep-seated insecurity that completely crumbles when faced with genuine intellectual challenge, transforming a supposed debate into a spectacle of self-congratulation.
Whoopi Goldberg was angry when Alyssa pointed out that Trump went to the funeral of Officer Diller.
Yes.
On Long Island, and Joe Biden went to a podcast. Look at Whoopi Goldberg's reaction.
Choose what you like there, but for Republicans, it was good imagery.
Really?
One day later, yes.
And I'm asking that because I was so offended because you know who showed up.
Yeah.
And he was, whether he was asked or not. This
So he
is a
was
man
invited.
who didn't care what happened to the officers on January 6th.
She promotes Joe Biden and Kamala Harris every day on that show. Trump wasn't supportive enough of the cops who were, yes, in danger on J 6th. How does that explain their behavior on a daily basis?
The confrontation also laid bare a profound and often frustrating political hypocrisy that frequently goes unchecked in the echo chamber of The View. Sunny frequently champions certain political figures while vehemently attacking others, even when their actions present eerily similar patterns or share underlying intentions. We witnessed it unfold when Whoopi Goldberg reacted with visible anger when a co-host dared to point out former President Trump's respectful attendance at the funeral of a fallen police officer, starkly contrasting it with President Biden's appearance on a podcast. While Sunny dedicates segments to promoting President Biden and Vice President Harris, her righteous indignation over Trump's perceived lack of support for January 6th, officers seem to conveniently bypass any critical examination of her favored party's own stances or actions regarding law enforcement. Then came the chilling, deeply divisive moment when, discussing the iconic "Make America Great Again" hat, Sunny asserted with striking conviction that wearing it was akin to putting a SWAT sticker on one's head, or even a swastika. The implication was clear, unambiguous, and profoundly disturbing. Supporting a particular political figure meant endorsing an ideology of hate, immediately labeling half the country as beyond the pale. Bill Maher, cool as a cucumber in a cryogenic freezer, immediately pushed back with calm logic, pointing out the dangerous and corrosive implications of this kind of rhetoric, of hating half the country simply for their political affiliation. I would never say that we should put the swastika on the cap because I think you can hate Donald Trump. You can't hate everybody who likes him. It's half the country. I don't want to live in that country, he calmly stated, his voice a beacon of reason, exposing the stark, dangerous reality of Sunny's divisive rhetoric. These selective attacks, these clear and unsettling double standards, highlight a pervasive political theater where consistency, nuance, and logic are routinely sacrificed for partisan loyalty and performative outrage, ultimately eroding the very fabric of healthy public discourse.
Last week you called white Republican women cockroaches.
Actually, I didn't. And
you said they're acting like cockroaches.
I used in a similar
rhetoric.
Let me answer that.
Okay,
I used a metaphor.
Here's what I'm going to ask you all to do. Here's what I'm going to ask you to do.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you to tone it down a bit because I can't hear anything.
Let
No
me
one
respond,
can hear what's being
but she
saying.
just said I called white
understand
women
why
roaches.
people
All right, we're
because
going to
I
go to
didn't.
break. We're going to break. Can't take it.
And by the way, out there, that hat that you keep wearing, that red hat that says "Make America Great Again," that tells people that you go along with this. So you might as well just put a swastika on the hat.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
Because we see it anyway.
I'm not going to defend Donald Trump ever, but I would never say that we should put the swastika on the cap because I think you can hate Donald Trump. You can't hate everybody who likes him. It's half the country. I don't want to live in that country. I don't want to live in the country where I hate half the country, and I don't hate half the country.
How dare you disagree?
As the confrontation escalated, Sunny's typical defenses kicked in, revealing her predictable playbook. She doubled down, her voice jumping an octave, her attempts to out-intellectualize Maher and Kelly becoming painfully awkward and desperate. She started flinging historical references and half-baked legal jargon with all the precision of a toddler hurling spaghetti at a wall, a messy, desperate, and ultimately fruitless endeavor with no clear objective. These rhetorical grenades, pulled from a Wikipedia search moments before, were lobbed without pins, hoping to sound profound but landing as incoherent babble. If this were a courtroom, the stenographer would simply write incoherent babble and threaten to unionize out of protest. One of the most telling and frankly pathetic moments was when she was accused of having previously called white Republican women cockroaches, a charge she vehemently denied, but one that immediately sent the segment spiraling into an almost comical chaos. I'm going to ask you to tone it down a bit because I can't hear anything. No one can hear what's being said, she declared, her voice rising, desperately trying to regain control as the noise of her own unraveling became too deafening to bear, a clear signal for a commercial break. Bill Maher, in his accustomed cryogenic composure, simply sat there, letting her tirades ricochet off him like Nerf darts on a concrete wall. This wasn't his first rodeo. He had been wading through ideological minefields since dial-up internet was a thing. You could practically see the decades of media experience rolling their eyes every time Sunny tried to nail him to a metaphorical cross of righteous indignation. She was attempting what she clearly thought was a grand, show-stopping closing argument, the kind that gets clipped and posted by 23 Instagram accounts with names like Woke Warrior Queen. But Maher was already halfway through his third glass of red wine, mentally Googling what time his flight home was. Kelly, meanwhile, didn't even bother raising her voice. Her rebuttals were so razor sharp, so calmly delivered, that Sunny looked utterly dismantled, as if she were being politely dissected by someone who had already filled out her credibility's death certificate. It wasn't a debate, it was an exorcism, with Megyn Kelly playing the role of the stone-cold cleric and Sunny Hostin flailing, desperately trying to convince the audience that reality itself was just another opinion, another view. What ultimately transpired on that fateful broadcast was less a physical collapse, though her demeanor certainly suggested internal turmoil, and more the profound implosion of a worldview that simply cannot handle the friction of reality. Sunny Hostin's entire brand is predicated on one unwavering and ultimately fragile belief that her moral outrage is always justified, that her opinions are akin to the 10 Commandments carved in stone, and that anyone who dares to disagree is a heretic who must be publicly shamed and condemned. She doesn't engage in genuine debate. She performs an exorcism with bullet points, a judgment ceremony where she is judge, jury, and prosecutor, and the viewer is merely expected to applaud politely between commercials for laxatives and menopause supplements. And yet, when confronted by Bill Maher's unflinching wit, his unbothered sarcasm, and Megyn Kelly's surgical precision, her act, so meticulously cultivated, simply wore thin. Her signature move, when out of logic, immediately switched to feelings. When feelings run dry, accused the other person of being dangerous to democracy, puppies, and brunch, fell spectacularly flat. Maher simply, calmly, and devastatingly pointed out how utterly ridiculous everything had become, leaving Sunny sputtering into her microphone, desperately trying to salvage whatever dignity she had left, which, to be fair, is now buried under a landslide of Twitter threads, deleted hot takes, and the collective sigh of millions of viewers who just wanted to hear something, anything coherent. Her collapse was an ideological one, a profound moment of reckoning, a poignant reminder that even the loudest shrieks and the most passionately clutched pearls cannot change the fundamental fact that Sunny Hostin was absolutely torched on live television, and the ashes of that spectacular implosion, they spell one devastating, irrefutable word: overexposed. The showdown served as a stark, undeniable lesson for anyone navigating the treacherous waters of modern media. In an age saturated with performative outrage, echo chamber debates, and self-serving narratives, facts, wit, and unyielding logic still possess the power to cut through the most impenetrable noise. It wasn't just a win for Maher and Kelly, it was a moment of profound clarity for viewers, a rare glimpse into the glaring limits of a public brand built predominantly on unchecked moral superiority, and a refusal to engage with opposing viewpoints on their own terms. Will Sunny Hostin adapt her theatrical approach? Will she evolve? Or will she continue her brand of theatrical indignation, risking further public implosions when challenged by those who refuse to play by her rules? And what does this very public unraveling mean for the future of The View itself and the broader, increasingly polarized landscape of televised discourse? One thing is certain: the era of unchallenged monologues, particularly for those whose claims crumble under scrutiny and whose arguments are built on a foundation of shifting sand, may very well be drawing to a close. There's a growing fatigue among audiences, a weariness of constant shaming and virtue signaling. People are muting their TVs, not just because they disagree, but because they'd rather listen to a dentist drill than endure another 10-minute lecture on why laughter is oppression. Because in the end, no matter how loud she yells, no matter how passionately she clutches her pearls, and no matter how many times she insists she's right, nothing can change the undeniable fact that Sunny Hostin just got absolutely torched on live television, and the echoes of that intellectual demolition will undoubtedly resonate for a long, long time.